Tools are one of those things that if you're just starting out, just start out with free ones just to get a feel for where you're at. And then you can work into these other paid tools. If you're not careful, pretty soon you're up to about $300 to $500 in tool fees. And at that point, you're about a third of the way of the cost to just have somebody do your SEO for you. Be careful what you get for tools and how much you're spending on those. Hey, on this episode, we're going to cover some really cool tools for SEO and local GBP. But I wanted to jump into what the next 12 episodes are going to be, so you have some idea what's coming down the line, and you can jump in, jump out to whatever episode in the future that might help you. So I'm just going to go through the list here real quick of topics that we're going to cover. So again, today's episode is going to be about the top SEO tools and website optimization. Episode 2, coming up in probably within a week, are Google Business Profile's #1 local ranking factors. So Whitespark says that if you're ranking in the 3-pack for the keywords you want to rank for, 65% of your leads are going to come off that GBP. And I would give you the caveat that's for like local service businesses. If your business is local but a little more complex, let's say like an architect, I would argue that diminishes in that people are going to want to see the body of your work before calling. So most of the time, you're going to want to visit your site, see your gallery of work, and go from there. But as a general rule for local services, that holds true. Episode 3 will be mastering Google reviews for SEO and for trust. Episode 4 will be business directory listings and citations. Are they still relevant? Short answer, yes. Episode 5, on-page SEO for local business. We'll discuss service pages, location pages, and other strategies and the roles all those play. Sorry, you got to use notes. There's a lot of stuff here. Episode 6 will be paid ads, Google paid ads, Facebook ads, obviously, or Meta, and YouTube ads, and what works, what's the approximate cost per click, customer intent, user intent, understanding how those ads are used in certain applications. Episode 7 will be AI in small business, and that will be some practical applications that you can use in your business and on your website. So AI tools that we'll use for paid ads, AI tools that are for conversion on your site. So that'll include things like AI chat, and in some cases, AI voice, some really cool technologies. There's a new product we'll be coming out with called an AI employee. So it's all about database, or not database, but data source. And the cleaner the data source, the better the results. So exciting stuff in that episode. Episode 8 will be technical SEO. So we're going to talk about website speed, mobile optimization, and crawlability on that site, or on that episode, I should say. Things like schema, we'll be covering that as well. Episode 9, we're going to talk about leveraging your social media for local visibility. So it'll be things like Facebook, Instagram, obviously, YouTube. I'm not real strong on TikTok, so we're going to probably skip over that. But social proof is an important piece of SEO, so we're gonna dive into that a little bit. Episode 10 will be content marketing. So things like blogs, we're going to go through blogs, guest blogs, other tactics like listicles, keyword clusters, that strategy. And we'll talk about a little bit about keyword research there. Kyle Roof has a good strategy, and it's a strategy we follow, and it's an avalanche strategy where, the first keywords that you want to try to rank for are low competition, medium to low competition. And as you build momentum there, much like an avalanche, then you can start to go after high competition keywords. Now, we want those as business owners, we want those keywords right out of the chute. It's just a little difficult to do that. So you just got to understand you need to do this strategy, or your agency should be doing that strategy of getting good traction on low keyword rankings, if you will, and then getting traffic and then building. Now, that's if you're starting from scratch. If your business is more established, there's a different strategy there. Didn't need to go too far in the weeds. Number 11 here, advanced GBP strategies. So we're going to talk about attributes, services, again, your categories, right? And then post and other things you should be doing on a routine basis, either a couple times a week or weekly, to maintain position in that 3-pack, because it's vital. And again, it goes back to most of your leads coming off, 65% of your leads coming off that GVP. It's absolutely critical. And the last episode will be future-proofing your local SEO for 2025 and beyond. So what we're going to be talking about or covering there is more of those AI searches. Day to day, month to month, we're seeing transition from searches being done on Google to AI. And so we're going to have to change the game if we're all going to survive. And so the good news is good SEO on your site should translate to good AEO, or AI search, if you will. And so the two should be interlinked, because most of AI is getting most of the information from your site. But then it plays into a more holistic, where you're on YouTube now, you're on the various media, so AI can identify that, just like Google has, and figure out what's going on there. I'm going to pause for a second real quick. I'm going to promote our company, and that if you have any need for SEO help and want to do a free audit, you can just go to our site, click on the free audit tool, and basically go ahead and fill it out. So it's going to go and it's going to ask you for the typical information. But if you do fill this out, obviously give us your website, but then go ahead and fill out as many keywords as you want. They list 3 or 5. I would say the more you give us, the better we can do some kind of audit for you there and help you out. So let's just jump into these tools. They're pretty cool. First one we're going to jump into is called Jebto. And to get to it, and this is a reminder, if you're welcome to obviously listen to the site or listen to the podcast, but to get the most out of this, I do a screen share. And so I'm showing you all these tools. And our podcast is effectively on YouTube. It's Local SEO Tactics podcast. If you type that into YouTube, this episode should come up, and it can go into, give you a little more detail of what we're talking about. So this tool is called Jebto, and it'll be in the show notes, but it's jepto.com/GVP/discovery. And if you go in there, and let's say you're an attorney and you're going to be a probate attorney. And before I get too far ahead of myself, which I've already done, Whitespark says that one of the biggest mistakes people make in their GVP is they don't get their categories right. And they don't have their categories in the order that they want to be found, let's say. So getting your categories right for your GVP is absolutely critical. And so what this tool will help you do is not only help you with your main category, but also give you all the supporting categories that you want to be found for, and to make sure you're not listing categories that you don't want to be found for. In this case, it's probate attorney. I threw in a few add or filler words like trust and wills. You hit return here, and hopefully this works for us. Never fails, like you're doing a podcast or a video and it doesn't show up. Okay, so these are some of the terms that it came up with. And you could see like things like stockbrokers, and they're probably not what you want, where family law attorney, probate legal services, estate planning attorney. Now they're saying that there's no service name, but there's a category for it. So that to me rings true with, I would assume, some of the clients that we have, estate litigation attorney. So if they're more trial oriented, trial attorney, I would assume that would be a good category that you'd want to be found out for. If you don't deal with divorce law, obviously you don't want to be set up in that situation. So that's a really good tool. And then for like that GVP categorization, another tool we're just going to jump into, this is free obviously, but it's your Google Search Console. So there's 2 tools we're going to cover, Google Search Console and Google Analytics. And I just want to go through what the difference is between the two. And to set those up is fairly straightforward. You got to have a Gmail or get a Gmail, and then they're going to require you have a Gmail, and then you'll register the site to the Search Console and the Analytics, but you'll view it, you'll log in effectively through your Gmail. And the primary function of the Search Console is to show your website as it appears in the Google search results and providing insights into search performance, indexing issues, crawl errors. Now, this tool does not reflect local ranking. It may reflect ranking on a national basis, but it doesn't necessarily get you into that local ranking category. And then Google Analytics, which I'm just going to jump into here, it shows you things like user behavior, page views, time on sites, conversions. That becomes a little more in depth as you begin to rank. You can take insights on that, and it gives you maybe some ideas how to change your site up a little bit, or add content or pictures or whatever. I'm not going to go in depth about this right now, but Microsoft has a product that's free. Yeah, so Microsoft's product is called Clarity, and it's free. It's pretty cool. It does a much better job than Google Analytics in some levels, where it'll show you like a heat map of where people are clicking on, and you got to be careful with it because you can make certain assumptions that are accurate, but I think it gives a better idea of what's going on with your site, things you might have to change, and it's a little more in depth. And nice deal, it's free. Understand when certain sites are free, there's a reason for that, so be careful. All right, and then this is a bit self-promoting, but this is our tool that we have right now. There's a free beta version that you can sign up for. We're probably going to be closing that by, I'm guessing, the end of June for sure. And then once you have it, you can use it for 3 months. But it's a pretty cool tool in that what it does is it actually shows how your site is ranking. I'll get my mug out of the way here. It shows how your site is ranking in your local area in the SERPs. So you have other tools like Local Falcon and some of the href tools and stuff that will show your GBP in a grid and how it's ranking in your area, your GBP for certain keywords. This is different in that it shows you how your SERPs or naturals are showing in your local area. And that really is important with mobile search, because now Google's getting very accurate on what it delivers for searches based on where you're actually located with a GPS within your phone and everything else that goes with it. So remember, Google sees everything. So this tool is really cool. And I'll just use an example. This is a cell phone repair business that's in the South Metro and of Minneapolis. So we want to know how we rank for iPhone repair. It's pretty good, but guess what? We got work to do in these suburbs. So we need to write more articles, do more SEO content, so we're ranking 1 or 2 in these areas. Minneapolis is a huge market. Excuse me. Can we rank there? Probably, but the reality is that's probably 20 to 30 minutes away from most of those people. I'm not sure they're going to drive that far for that type of service. But there are individual services that they provide that nobody else does, that people, because of the savings and the unique methods that they have, they can save them hundreds of dollars. So there are certain deals like, I don't know if it's on here, but backglass. Okay, iPhone backglass repair. Let me get my mug out of the way. You got the ums and ahs going today. So they rank way into Minneapolis, and so they'll actually pull people from further out because of that unique service. So that's one kind of strategy, and that's where this tool is helpful, because if your local business does something that's pretty unique and people will travel farther for that service, then it's worth trying to rank for that further out. I don't know if that makes sense. It'll convert. In other words, people will call you, and even though they're 40 minutes away, because you're saving them a couple $100, they're willing to travel for that. Pretty cool tool. Again, it's free probably till the end of June. After that, it won't be, but it's just very valuable as you go down your SEO journey to see how you're ranking and you're more strategic about how you're showing up in the naturals. The next tool we're going to cover is Answer Socrates. And this is a cool tool in that it's a replaced Ask the People, or it's an alternative to Ask the People, which is another good search tool. But I think that's either gotten acquired or it's very limited on what you can do for free use. Answer Socrates is pretty cool. I'm going to put in a term here, copy or leasing. We'll hit search. I think we've already come up with this because it's preloaded. But it gives some alternatives of keywords, and I don't know that it gives, one second here. I don't know that it gives keyword volume or how hard it is to rank for that, but it does give you alternatives of what you could write and what people are asking similar to this and what you would potentially write articles on and go from there. People are asking, how does leasing a copier work? How does leasing a printer work? And that's really important because in this situation, I'm older. I call that device a copier. If you're under 35, you're going to call it a printer because copier and Xerox are like, they're just old terms. And you could see that this is going down in search. And part of the reason is printing in general is going down. Not to nerd out too much on that, but pretty cool tool. Answer Socrates. To get to it, it's answersocrates.com. Again, we'll have that in the show notes. SEO Minions is a tool. You still have to pay for it, but it's pretty cheap. It's $1.75 a month is what it nets out to, $21 a year annually. But it's handier, and it's going to give you a little more information in terms of not only keyword suggestions, but also what the cost is for something like that. A great tool as well. This one's free, and it's called ryanrob.com/keyword-tool. So I'll go through that again. ryrob.com/keyword-tool/ and it's free as well. So you can, a little more comprehensive, you can type in copy releasing, and then it comes up with a skew of other keywords that are related to it, their volume, and then their difficulty. So in that avalanche hierarchy, what you would want to do is try to rank. Ideally, you want to rank for the keyword that's the highest volume in your money shop, but you may have to go after some of these lesser, what you call easier ones to go after, commercial copy releasing, go after a bunch of those, create some traffic, and then start going after some of the higher, more difficult ones. You want to get traffic going, and then you want to go after the more difficult ones. Now, that's if you're starting from scratch. If your site's more established, there's a different strategy there. So we've covered a lot so far. We're about halfway through this. We'll try to keep moving along here, but I'm going to talk about the two biggies that the industry uses. And those are SEMrush and Ahrefs. So before I jump into there, I'm jumping around, I apologize. We are gonna cover one more free tool or semi-free, depending on your aspect of things here. But this is more for keyword type stuff, and that's Google Ads. So you've gotten your Google Search Console, you've gotten your Google Analytics, Google Ads. You're getting a Google Ads account now. You can get that for free, and it'll give you some keyword planning. When you have a ad spend budget of $1 a month, let's say, it gives you a little bit more detail. And I think that detail really covers your local, let's say your local keyword search. And you can get around that to some degree if you know your numbers. In the Minneapolis market, I think our population is like 1.9 for the greater metro area. In the whole of the United States is 365 million. So that's I think 0.005% of the population. So you would take the national results, times it by that, and that tells you how many searches for that particular keyword. Or you could just say, hey, $1 a month, and then Google will give you more of a local number that will help you out with that keyword volume and how, obviously, the more expensive it is, it tells you how competitive it is in that sense. All right, so let's jump back into SEMrush. So what I did was I just pulled up some of the features between the two, and just the short synopsis is this. SEMrush is, in my opinion, is geared more towards, it's a little more comprehensive, really good at a lot of things, but not great at any one thing. Does that make sense? And because it's more comprehensive, and it does have social media management tools, and it has rank tracker, and it has some other stuff that Ahrefs doesn't, it has its pluses and minuses. Both are great tools. I know agencies that run them both, currently we just run Hrefs, but we'll probably jump on board at some point in time here with SEMrush as we delve more into having our customers wanting us to manage their social piece and manage their paid ads as well. So it's a really good tool. It just takes a little bit longer learning curve. So I would buy it with the idea that, okay, I'm going to use it for SEO, get good at that, and then move on to some of the other modules, if you will. And its pricing is a little more straightforward in that does have a credit system, but I guess it's a little more straightforward. Not using it, I can't speak to it directly. Great tool. And so pricing on this ranges, if you're just starting out, from $99 a month. If you have more of an agency, you're going to probably be around that $400 or $500 range. And if you're enterprise, you're going to be probably closer to $1,000. But a great tool that most of the industry uses. What else here? Ahrefs. So Ahrefs is, again, more dialed in on the SEO piece in some levels. In other words, Ahrefs, like in their keyword piece, if I'm not mistaken, it basically pulls, let me just check my notes here to make sure. So the keyword research is really good. Excuse me. And their competitor analysis is really good as well. And what I would go out to, if you really got to dial this in, is go out to Google, type in Ahrefs feature page, and it goes into what it does that no other tool like it does. It shows you more current and historical data. So once you hook this tool up, you can actually go back in time a bit and see how you're ranking or where your competitors rank. But it's a super powerful tool. I would say 60 to 70% of the agencies out there use this. It's what we submit most of our reports from. And again, it's pulling from the Google Analytics, Google Search Console, and all that information, but it's also pulling from a couple of separate organizations as well. This, again, is priced about the same as SEMrush. It's $99, and it just works out. But again, their credit system's a little different. So what else did we want to cover here? I think we've pretty much covered everything. So how to look at tools. Okay, so these tools are helpful. If you're just starting out, I wouldn't necessarily dig into all these. I'd use some of the free tools at first just to get started. And then as your number one priority is to rank that GVP. And we'll get into tools on those as we dig into the episode. I think we're going to be coming up next episode where we're going to talk about some of the tools and some of the steps you need to rank your GVP. So we'll get into those tools. And so again, tools are one of those things that if you're just starting out, just start out with free ones just to get a feel for where you're at. And then you can work into these other paid tools. If you're not careful, pretty soon you're up to about $300 to $500 in tool fees. And at that point, you're about a third of the way of the cost to just have somebody do your SEO for you. Be careful what you get for tools and how much you're spending on those. So I have one more quick ask towards the end of this podcast and YouTube here is we live and die by reviews. So on YouTube, anything you can do as far as or subscribe would be appreciated. On podcasts, it's a little trickier to leave a review. So what I'm going to do here, if you're watching on YouTube, I would go to Google and say how to leave a review on an Apple podcast. It is a process, just to warn you. It's like a 7-step process because it's not intuitive at all. You have to go out, you have to get in your podcast, search for the actual episode, tap on the podcast album cover or illustration. And then from there, you scroll down to ratings and reviews, click write a review, and then just follow all that and go from there. 5 stars would be certainly appreciated. And so anything you do to help us out there would be great. So join us next week for that, covering the GVP, how to optimize your GVP and how important that is. Again, we want you to be in the 3-pack, or if you're mobile now, it's 2-pack. So a lot of mobile keywords are getting rid of the 3-pack and they're going to 2-pack, which is kind of interesting. And most of our searches now are mobile. So it's really critical that you're optimizing that GBP to get in the 2-pack as it relates to mobile and the 3-pack as it relates to desktop. Thanks again for your time. I hope we can help you out. And if you need any help with your website, don't be afraid to go out to our audit page and we'll help you out. Thanks.